Okay, and a very warm welcome back to the Bar Stewards Inquiry. Must apologise for us being non-runners last week. It was my fault. I had dental surgery and I was completely unable to talk. Some people might think that's a blessing in disguise, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't a barrel of laughs, let's put it that way. But we're back and we're here to preview a fantastic weekend of racing, both sides of the sea. We've got Newbury, Newcastle, and across the sea in Ireland, we have got Fairyhouse. Fantastic card there on Sunday, the second day of their two-day meeting. Obviously, at Newbury, we're going to be previewing the Ladbrokes Trophy, or the Hennessy, as I like to call it, fighting fifth at Newcastle. Before we start, we've got a few listeners' questions. And as always, I'd like to introduce the two gentlemen with me. We've got John Lang of John Joe's Blogspot on Facebook and Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk. John, you had a good day today?
Yes, managed to blind pig found toe truffles.
Yeah, absolutely. Top shout.
I'm only worth following after the 25th of every month by the look of things at the minute. But
must be like a lucky day or something.
I think it's just a case of I'm totally switched off at the start of the month. I'm going to have to start and concentrate a bit harder, otherwise people's going to be putting contracts out on me, I think.
Don't think we quite got there yet, John. It's a bit extreme. Let's start off with some listeners' questions. Again, these were sent in to us last week, so we'll be addressing them now. One from Michael Toms on Twitter, and he says, "Hi all, is there a media bias against smaller trainers when plots are landed? Uproar over Ronan McNally and to a certain extent Phil Kirby, but one of JP's is laid out and wins, no headlines. No headlines that question the integrity of the sport. Same with Sir Mark Prescott." Michael, I would say yes, you are bang on the money. Lee?
Absolutely. I mean, the bigger they are, the more untouchable they are in racing. It's probably one of the only sports I know where you can absolutely, pull someone's trousers down and and get away with it because of who you are in racing. But the poor lads at the bottom. And I mean, the BHA sort of set the mark for that because you've seen it in races just when jockeys ride. If it's a big jockey, nothing's said. If it's a poor £7 amateur, 21-day ban, etc. Throw the book, And I think that's just that's how it is.
Yeah, it's I always find that this racing is quite indicative of society in general, really, isn't it?
pretty much. The current
Especially at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. And John, I know you'll love this question. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, in the main, the smaller trainers are just easier targets, are less likely to kick up a fuss. I don't know if anybody remembers when Michael Stout ran a horse called Florimund at Windsor. It was the third run for the Mark syndrome, and this horse had been ridden 3 times by somebody who only had 3 mounts all season, called Stephen Davis. He was only apprenticed to Henry Cecil's, and to be perfectly honest, the horse would have got a better ride if the jockey had no arms. And Stouty was charged, I think it was about 40,000 that they found him. But it looked at one point like he was going to take a JCB down to Parkman Square and demolish the place. It was absolutely incandescent, and if you saw the race, there was zero defence whatsoever for it. It was appalling. Then, of course, he went and won with it on handicap debut as well, which was just really cocking a proper snook at him, With regard to Prescott, I was thinking it might be a new thing, this, where maybe like the last 10 years where he hadn't been running them over anything like a trip, maybe giving them 2 over 5, 1 over 6, and then first time out over 10 furlongs the following year,
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll have a look at some Eber horses, just out of curiosity. And if you go back like 10 years to like one of the likes of Mustache and My Incarnation, Dira won the Eber. They were the only three in that 10-year period that actually won over trips less than 10 furlongs. They all won over a mile. Now there was three there, but you go back a bit further, 1990 to 2000, and out of those able winners, you could only find one far ahead. That was Les Ayres. The rest of so it's gone a bit better, if anything. Hasten to add, Prescott's Eva winner, won off 92, which I thought was interesting as well, because he wouldn't get in now. Tuning made a handicap debut off 102 when that one won.
Yeah, remember that, yeah.
So, I mean, if you line one up for a decent handicap, there's not a lot to be gained from strangling them. I think the galling thing is when they're starting off 48 and winning 6.
Yeah. It's a bit like when you see one sort of getting strangled with a festival handicap in mind, and then you find out that actually they've done too good a job, and they missed the cut by about 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
That does happen a lot in cases of the horses running in green and gold colours. Of course, now, I mean, we had a classic this week, didn't we? Mick Pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that was so blatant that even Mr. Magoo would have seen it. Nothing gets said, and yet the gamble at Hexham was all over the pages. You know, it's certainly bizarre. A good question here from Invicta Capital. How widespread is betting amongst jockeys, and is it more prevalent on the all-weather or national hunt? Gents, what's your take on this? John, I'll go to you first.
Well, we're pretty certain Thick Dave doesn't do it, aren't we? You know, I mean, we've more or less got that from the horse's mouth. Obviously, it goes on, doesn't it? You know, I mean, and why wouldn't it? You know,
Yeah.
The BHA really, I mean, couldn't catch cold.
No.
So I mean, they're not going to catch somebody with a punter.
Yeah.
There's very, very little chance. Possibly more chance if we've got somebody laying one for them on Betfair. But as regards, if they have somebody betting for them, I don't think there's a cat in hell's chance of them catching anybody unless they're utterly, utterly stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
And they go to Mumbai or something and get on the phone. Even then, chances are they wouldn't be able to do anything. They'd end up as ambassadors on some sort of racing show or channel or something.
Classic, John. Lee, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, most it's pretty common knowledge that most jockeys have got punters and doing business for them. It's also pretty common knowledge that, you know, some jockeys own a few and some jockeys even train a few. It's been sort of, you know, he's done the rounds for a long time, and it's just how it is. I mean, to be honest, I will defend jockeys a lot more these days in terms of laying on the exchanges, because the liquidity is less for starters, and you know there is a paper trail there, and I can sense a bit of fear among some jockeys doing that to a degree these days, especially like on the all-weather meetings where, you know, the old, oh, can you take us a monkey out of this one? Can you lay this one for $1,000 or whatever? It's not possible to do so now, especially if they're 8, 9, 10 to 1.
You don't think it's fair then, Lee, and not being thick?
Well, I think I mean it's a case of it's the main livelihood is riding horses, and they know the one way they can get caught and lose their license, like we've seen from the past, Gary Carter, Eddie Ahern. You know, there's examples of, you know, they will get you if the paper trail is conclusive. And the problem is with punters, or some punters, it's not necessarily the jockey that's thick, it's the punters that are thick and tell people and then do it for too much themselves. Their average bet is like £100, but then all of a sudden they're taking $1,000 out of one at Wolverhampton on a Saturday night. It sticks out, and then, you know, and I've known I've known stories of where the BHA have actually felt collars of jockeys without it going public. So they've said, you do that again, and we're going to have you, kind of thing. So that also goes off where the BHA actually know, and they warn the jockey first and say any more of this, and that's it.
Yeah.
Kind of, so yeah.
Just while you're on the subject of Gary Carter there, I'll just point out he could have actually made it as a rally driver. Best campaign in with. Took me from Thirst to Gosforth Park once, and it was like an hour and 35 minutes. Yeah. Unbelievable, and the traffic was tasty as well. We were on the grass at one point. And tremendous effort.
Was it like hanging onto the dashboard, like with your knuckle, like literally a white knuckle ride?
I had a lot of confidence in him until we were on the embankment. Then we were tilted at 45 degrees, down about 70. It was a bit hairy. But
So it was, yeah.
Tremendous driver.
How many did you smoke on the way, John?
About 15.
So, we'll round off the questions with a question from Carl Swanson. As a big fan of national hunt racing, do you think it's in decline? Trainers this side of the water seem to wrap everything in cotton wool, saving their horses for the big week in March, whilst Irish trainers run theirs more frequently and still win at the festival. I do think national hunt racing is in decline, yes, sadly. I do think it is. And in fact, in another 10, 15 years, I wonder, will we have national hunt racing at all? I think there's lots of factors at play. One definitely think is it's going to be I think that once you sort of let people like PETA and things like that dictate to you, there are obviously certain things in national racing you don't want to see. Nobody wants to see horses flogged to death. Nobody wants to see horses crawling home in the mud. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see horses being abused, anything like that, not at all. But we're talking about a society now where programs like Allo Allo are banned, Little Britain's been banned, and I think that it's just the way that everything's going. I think that national hunt racing will be considered, in the eyes of general society, I think national racing will be considered cruel, and I do think that certainly within my lifetime I'll see it go. Guys, I don't know what you think about that, John.
I'd agree with you, Catherine. I think racing probably made a fairly big mistake when it decided maybe 20 years ago to put so much stock in the Grand National as its showcase day. Mm-hmm. Because 20 years ago the Grand National was always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Probably not to racing people, but it was going to be a problem to the fanatics that stand outside entry.
Yeah, with the gravestones.
Yeah, all that sort of thing. And it's not an edifying spectacle when you're seeing a horse doing a nosedive at beaches, all the rest of it. Nobody likes to see that. But it was part and parcel of the race. And when you look how they've handed to these people, watching that race down, it's like a fixed brush hurdle race now.
Yeah.
And the problem being with that, as you say, Catherine, once you open the door to these people, they won't stop until it stops.
Yeah.
I think that would be their ultimate. I think they'd wanted a flat racing as well, given the choice.
Yeah.
They have this thing in their heads about horses just being left to run free, and turn all the thoroughbreds loose and they can all meander over the meadows. And they'd forget about the blisters that they'd get just from being exposed to normal weather all the time.
Rain, cold, everything else. Yeah. That's that's horrendous for a horse, isn't it?
They've done what we do every new year, and they've given out room to idiots.
Yeah. I think they've only got. I think they think that these people, like you say, should be just sort of wandering, but
they could have told the RSPCA to get stuffed.
Yeah.
And they could have still altered the race. But they
Yeah.
could have been seen to tell the RSPCA to get stuff.
Yeah.
And the RSPCA keep coming at them. They say, well, look, we're improving our stats. Get stuffed again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were some horrific scenes at beaches.
Yeah.
Especially sort of in the late 80s, like Dark Ivy.
Dark Ivy.
Yeah.
I mean, going back a bit further, likes of Bo Bob, you know, I mean.
Yeah. Alton.
Beaten in 75, I mean, what Jeremy Glover was doing, continuing, you know, I mean, that's when it trace. Kicks it into Beach's ruck on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody wants to see that. I hate seeing. You don't luckily see it very often. No. Nobody wants to see a horse out the back, clearly, absolutely not in love with the game, not enjoying it, being sort of, you know, not being pulled up. No, nobody. You know, that's but.
But what PETA and the RSPCA need to get their heads round is, if they actually got their wish, they would need to invest in a massive field, a JCB and a gun.
I think they just think that you can just. The thing is, it's just lack of knowledge on that. I think they think that you can just turn a horse out in any paddock or in any field, and they don't know the dangers to horses. You know, I mean, I'm not getting in too much into horse husbandry here, but they've got no idea what is actually dangerous to horses, and the fact they think that they can just sort of. I think it's like the prairies, and the horse will be okay without, you know, shelter or blankets or anything like that. But it's hard bloody work looking after a horse. It really is. It's just not just talking about a racehorse. Hard work looking after any horse. But yeah, I do think it's at the end of a very long-winded answer. I do think it's a decline. Lee, what are your thoughts?
I think you two have really summed it off extremely well. I always find every year, say on social media, for some reason after the Grand National, I always end up trying to defend the sport to idiots, basically, that have no knowledge whatsoever and just bandwagon jumpers. And it's usually a wasted day because you get trolled, you get abused. But to a degree, I do concede it does get very difficult to defend national hunt racing because it is a tough sport, and as we know, they are trapped, like Raoul said. The horses are fantastically looked after, but it does get difficult to defend fatalities, and especially if it's a big race and it's on. And what the news channels as well now are all on side with PETA and RSPCA. If they won't celebrate the festival or they will immediately focus on the one horse that's sadly, you know, met a nasty fate, and that's why it is an uphill task, but well summed up. Yeah,
you won't get anyone on a news channel who will ask somebody from PETA or the RSPCA a pertinent question.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Someone will have them on to interview them, and they'll sit there and give them a bloody good listening to.
Yeah,
and that's the issue as well. You know, it's so one-sided, and I mean, the people that purport to run our game, just, well, you know, I mean, they don't want to fall out with anybody, you know, they've been kicked out of Sandhurst, they've had enough in their lives, you know, they just want a nice, quiet little course towards a pension.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other day when we were chatting, the Monty Python's Upper Class Twit of the Year competition fits it quite well, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and sadly, that's what it is. But anyway, let's move on. Let's look at the fantastic racing this weekend. We'll start with Newbury. We'll start with the feature event, the Ladbrokes Trophy, the Hennessy to all of us ones of a certain vintage. I'll start. So, yeah, I thought that I was going half mad, fancying the horse that I did. But having spoken to you, John, I realised that I might only be a touch mad. But to me, Black Op of Tom George has been absolutely crying out for this sort of trip his whole career. Didn't run too badly against Imperiora at Carlisle last time out. Trip blatantly too short for him. He has mixed it in Grade 1 Company. Came second to Slate House Kempton at 3 miles. And Kempton, as we know, a fairly easy 3 miles. I think 3 mile 2 would be right up his street from everything that I've seen from him so far. and he's around the 9-1 mark. So it's going to be my main bet in the feature race tomorrow at Newbury. John, I think you're thinking along the same lines.
I had this race in mind for this barrel-chested grinder since Boxing Day last year, really. I was delighted to see Tom Naismith Dim have a winner this afternoon. Showed himself in fantastic form. I think
Bloody good bloke.
I think, like yourself, Catherine, I think he had his teeth done. It looked like a refurbished cemetery when he was getting in there. He's obviously he's aware of the photo ops tomorrow, and he knows he's going to be on the premises with Black Up.
That's good to know. I didn't notice the teeth today. Just like to say, mine didn't look like tombstones. I did just have, normal dental surgery. But yeah, I
thought the organ had escaped from Westminster Cathedral at one point.
Oh, I am glad to see the table amongst the winners now, and I do think that Jonathan Burke is riding extremely well at the moment. Before John can say anything else that might get us into trouble, Lee, what's your fancy for the Hennessy?
I think to be fair, you've both found the one that, strangely for a 9-year-old, that actually could still be have some leeway in his mark of 150.
Yes.
Like you've said, it's quite a strange renewal, because a lot of the market fancies, the conditional, Kiddisart, Vindication, they've all sort of met each other and beat each other, then got beat by the next. So I think I would be boring and kind of sort of agree. I hate it when we do all agree, but because they usually get beat. But
we can't just say, actually, even though we didn't do a pod last week, it was actually probably a blessing in disguise there. That we didn't. I mean, I don't think I've ever backed so many fallers as I did last weekend. I know that you were the same, Lee.
Lee and Deck far before 1 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, I literally lost an ice cream van on last Saturday. I mean, it was that bad. 5 fallers in 45 minutes. I had. It was just. That's the thing. Sport hurts,
It is. I got so sick of watching Haydock because it was such an abomination that in the end, and I was feeling like crap anyway. The day after surgery, I was feeling horrendous, and I just thought I can't take this anymore. I turned it off, but I think Lee, you tweeted something about Satan. Was it Satan?
It was a day handed down by Satan, to all the bad people in life, and obviously I was one of them. So
I was left thinking I must have been very wicked somewhere along the line to have a Saturday like I did. Excellent. I'm glad that we all agree. So it's black up for all of us in the Hennessy. Looking at the supporting card, Lee, your fancies on the rest of the card?
On the supporting race at Newbury, I'll cover it off fairly brief. 12-10 at Newbury, I felt that's the mare's hurdle. I know you, Catherine, do like Brian Ellison's mare. The one that won at Weather. Mrs. Hyde, yeah. Look, she's really thriving under Brian, and with mares, I think that's important when they start to thrive, because sometimes their attitude in all there, but this mare is really kind of going places, really tough. But I think she'll struggle with the penalty in this, and
I do.
The one I did like was the ex Brian Ellison train runner. A horse with no name of Nicky Henderson's, because they've always thought the world of this, and obviously, I mean, no disrespect to Brian, but it's a quality trainer move, and to say he's going for the Stars first time up, no prep. He could have placed this mare in any sort of back end novice hurdle at a gas track, but he's come straight here, and I think that's significant there. So that in the mare's race. And the other horse I liked at Newbury that afternoon quite a lot was the previous winner of the Sir Peter O'Sullivan handicap chase cap course. First time wind up. Paul Nicholls obviously thought the world of this horse before it basically had a problem. And it was so impressive in this off the mark of 128, beating Brel and Dar. I just think off 138 still there's a lot of leeway in that mark, and I know it's a long absence, but I really do think that this will be primed for this race.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about he'll be absolutely spot on for this.
Yeah, I'm fancying Cap Car strongly myself. I was going to ask actually, what the hell's going on with these colours tomorrow?
I think it's because it's really weird, isn't it? But I thought they all had to wear Sir Peter's old colours, but it seems it's just a few.
I'm kind of assuming it's giving JP the opportunity if he wins it to go on the telly and say he backed it 25 to 1 3 weeks ago. Sir Peter tradition, you know.
It must. I mean, imagine I don't know who the commentator is at Newbury tomorrow, but imagine that would be a bloody nightmare. I thought they all had to wear them, but it's a bit confusing.
Not a good idea, is it? No. Especially if it's a bit of a dull day. I mean,
the fog comes down. That should be.
Fog comes down, and all that's showing is the yellow flash. Like a high vis could be quite interesting, couldn't it?
Well, whatever wins, I'm going to try and get paid out.
Okay, so brilliant. 2 positive mentions for Cap Course there. In the intermediate hurdle, Sebastopol, obviously we were all quite sweet on him for the Great Whip before the ground, made him a non-runner. I know, Lee, you are quite sweet on Marie's Rock, and of course she does have the benefit of the wind up and has to give her a bit of weight. This is quite a tasty little contest, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Marie's Rock for me, I think does look a sort of a candidate for the mayor's race, maybe at the festival, something like that. I don't know where they'll go with that. I do think she's a lot better than 141. I think she's a quality mare. But I do like Sebastopol.
Yeah, I like Sebastopol. Yeah.
But I will stress, I do like a handy runner there. When the ground's on the sort of sounder side are good, or it's, I don't know how it's rode, to be honest, today. But it did seem to suit the front end today a little bit. So I don't want them to be too negative with Sebastopol. If they were, that would be a negative. But be interested anyway to see Marie's Rock and to see where she fits for the rest of the season. But if she won that well, then you'd be thinking they'd be going for the Mares' Hurdle, I would have thought. Yeah,
definitely. Going back to the Mares' event that kicks off the card here, I do quite like the Irish Raider Politesse. I thought she showed absolutely solid form in Ireland last year. Interesting she comes over for this, and I think in future she's going to be like a real decent staying mare. I think the pedigree certainly suggests that. I think that the fact that Mrs. Hyde's got to give her weight, I think she's absolutely top class. So maybe having a little speculation on Politesse tomorrow. Anything else to mention on the Newbury card before we move on?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, so we shall move on to Newcastle. Do you remember when this used to be a really, really good card?
Yes.
It's kind of like it's quite disappointing now, isn't it? I think it's quite disappointing now. I sort of remember the old days when they were both on BBC One in the afternoon in the 80s, and they were kind of both really top billing. And I think it's.
I remember Bird's Nest used to win the Fighting Fit every year after about 15 years on the spin, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not a betting contest for me in the Fighting Fifth. I don't know if you guys can see any danger to Epitante.
Not really. Basically, because the ground on good ground, it's all become. I mean, that mare has got speed and she's very quick hurdles, and on good ground, I can't really see any. I mean, Sir Royal's admirable, really. 8-year-old, it feels like it's 12 years old.
Yeah,
been around since 19 whatever. But yeah, Epitante, I think it's boring, but I just, I can't see anything having the gears to beat her, really.
Yeah, and especially with the allowance as well.
I thought Stone Lad might run well. I don't know if he thought that was at the 4 day stage, but I couldn't put anybody else as favourite, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, anything at Newcastle that's jumping out to you guys?
Well, possibly a mention for Brian Ellison's in the 130, Baron de Middleton. I was really surprised that Brian ran him over 2 miles on his reappearance when he basically looks a 3 miler to me. And he ran well, really. Only 5 lengths behind Phlegmatic. I mean, over hurdles, Brian was finding him over 2.6. He won over 2.4. So 2 mile reappearance. And Brian, I know he's been very bullish about this horse. He said he'd improved a lot. He'd had a really good summer, and he'd really, really strengthened up, and still really improving. So I found he was bullish. He thought he'd win at Carlisle, and we all said, "Well, Brian, 2 miles, the horse wants 3," and he gets that for the first time, and back on good. It could just well be that this horse finally clicks, and if he does, and Brian's, like I say, confident in the horse, 123 could be very lenient. So maybe not one to go mad on, but just something to look at and consider.
Okay, John, anything else for you at Newcastle?
I like Watmore in the 3:15. Thought this absolutely cruised into contention last time. Probably blow up. I don't think Henry Daly's great at getting them fit first time out. Chances are this probably won't peak until New Year anyway. But I think there's definite scope for improvement with this horse. There's maybe a school of thought thinks it's a bit soft, but I'd be inclined to give it a chance round here, and I think this will suit it tomorrow. It's only 3-1, but I think it'll take a lot of bait.
It's quite an interesting. You don't see that many Henry Daly runners at Newcastle, do you? So it's quite an interesting foray north for him.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think he probably took the Fairyhouse way and thought this track will suit, and the type of race it's in as well. So
Okay. I'm just going to give mention to one. Doncaster has been backed in the last few hours. Probably my best of the weekend, which is a bit crazy, obviously, with the amount of decent racing going on that have gone for one on an undercard. But it was an eye catcher last time out for me. Ashington got badly hampered in the conditional jockeys hurdle at the showcase meeting at Cheltenham. Finished one place behind Wild Max. Is it Wild Max? Or have I made that name up? It's Wild Max, isn't it? And he really, really caught up ground that day. Sort of came up the hill like a train to finish 4th. Would have definitely been placed higher had that not met interference with the faller. But absolutely top conditional on in the shape of Kevin Brogan. And I do think that he's the best of the weekend for me. We will take a look now at the awesome card at Fairyhouse on Sunday. If obviously I know people can't go to it at the moment, but if you're sort of looking for a really good day's racing in Ireland away from the big festivals to go to, I would say go to this meeting. It's absolutely brilliant. I've only been to it once, so really do hope to go again. We've got the Grade 3 Juvenile Hurdle. We've got the Royal Bond, we've got the Hatton's Grace, and we've got the Drinmore. Lee, anything taking your fancy at Fairyhouse on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a few short prices, obviously, in the feature events, but I do think there's some real good betting opportunities. Yeah. I've got my best bet of the weekend, actually, in the 12 o'clock at Fairyhouse. That's the Mares Handicap Chase. It is the BFG trained Make My Heart Fly. this is. I mean, they're so patient. The Irish. I mean, they've got they'd win the patience awards for any patient thing going. I mean, it literally is. They just run them, and it's. I mean, this horse has had the anchor down like for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 6 runs. Just anchor. Just it's amazing. I mean, it's,
smell of burning rubber all over the Republic.
I mean, the Davy Russell ride at Kilbeggan, for example, in July, after by the way she'd won last time out, and Davy Russell, I mean, it was a masterclass. Anyway, but then since then, she's. I mean, you look at her SPs, 28s, 50s, 40s, 33s. She's just been absolutely put to sleep, no effort whatsoever, and I get the feeling that. This is the race. I think this is D-Day. The one question mark would be, I wouldn't want it too soft. So hopefully it'll be yielding to soft rather than really, really horrid ground, because I do think she's probably better with less cut. But I do think they've had this race in mind.
Okay.
So yeah, Make My Heart Fly is in the 12 o'clock at Fairyhouse. And my other bet that on the Sunday would be. In the 305 race, the handicap hurdle, the feature handicap hurdle, the Drop the Anchor. I do feel that he's been given too much to do, really. The one at the Stole.
Dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, perfect name. I mean, brilliant name. But yeah, I mean, when he won at Listowel, he gave the Mullins one. That he fought out the finish with, he gave it plenty of ground, and Listowel's are difficult to come from behind.
Yes,
and last time out, I love his attitude as well, great attitude. And last time out, he didn't jump very well. Down Royale, if you don't get into a rhythm, you can get caught a bit flat-footed because that downhill run before the home turn. And I thought he could have jumped better, but he's still getting into contention. He's like a length behind, and then unluckily got brought down, and I think he would have gone very close, really close. Probably beat the other one that he faces, the winner of the race. I think he would have won, but can never say for sure. But Drop the Anchor, I felt, was the other. That's my second best bet of the weekend. Each way pleasure.
Okay.
There.
They must have been having some laugh when they named that.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it suits the owner down to the ground.
Absolutely, yeah. John and I actually fancy another green and gold special in that. I feel like calling him an old man, because this one as well feels like he's been around a long time. He is only 8. Campiador, and just thought last time out he was 4th, and I mean it really was a hilarious 4th. And I put him on my eye catchers list, and so I saw him lining up here, and at the moment he's 20-1. I am going to have to throw a little bit at that. Johnny caught your eye too, didn't he?
Well, this bloody thing, he's been on my tracker since God's dog 1940. And at least twice I've looked at my tracker and thought, the hell's that doing there? And I've ended up reviewing its entire career. And recently, as I said, they've had the Drop the Anchor situation and all the rest of it. And the 4th was, as you say, Catherine, absolutely hilarious. Yeah. There's nothing to be gained now from doing anything else. I mean, when they started on my tracker, it was rated, I think, 155. Now, the best I could ever make this was about 144, to be honest, because there was always situations where you could say the winner probably hadn't had to run to its best or whatever. There was mitigation, shall we say. But since he's at that mark, he's dropped down 130 here. Sure, he's absolutely blob on last time. The horse is ready. He's 20-1. Lee, you need to have £600 sterling on this.
I think I will do, actually, because I don't want to feel sick. I don't want you guys getting all the cream. And
it would be nauseating, wouldn't it?
It would. So I'm going to back it. Yeah.
£600 sterling on Campiador at 20-1. Lovely. I just want to give one a mention in the Hatton's Grace. Obviously, Honeysuckle, we know what she can do. Unbeaten, gets the allowances. I thought Rachel Blackmore just gave us such a fantastic ride at Cheltenham. Just called the race on the home turn, and that was it. She was away. I thought it was absolutely a textbook ride. But I do like Fury Road. And of course, today with the horse of Hobbs, whose name escapes me, Time Hill, obviously franking the Albert Bartlett form today through Road, placed in that like Time Hill, and obviously one of the BFGs. I really do like Fury Road too. I think coming back in trip as well is going to help him, and yeah, very much like him in the Royal Bond. Either of you two sort of tipping anything up in the Grade Ones?
I did take a look at Fury Road actually. I certainly think there's a little bit of value there. Again, nothing that you can go to town with it because you're up against such a good mare, and obviously she gets the allowance, so you're basically £15 worse off before the tapes go up. But I think if anyone's playing that race for sport, I concur with what you said, because I did take a look at him, and for the reasons you've highlighted, I think sort of around 7-1, 13-2, a little bit of value there.
Yeah. Okay. John?
I was just going to ask you, Otto, how good do you think the Cheveley Park horse is, Henry Allen?
I think he's exceptional.
Yeah.
I think we are looking at that's what he's bought for, isn't it? I do think you're looking at a future Gold Cup winner there. I genuinely do. Tried to get him beat on a number of occasions. Haven't. Yeah, I do. I do think that already he falls under the words exceptional, and very excited to see what he goes on to do. And I don't think that I think it would have been interesting if Andy Dufresne, a big fan of Andy Dufresne as well, if he was entered and this doesn't run. But he looked in the Ballymore at Cheltenham. He looked like a little bit on the back foot at one point, but then just absolutely came alive. And
where do you see this going at Cheltenham? Is the RSA just a gimme?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? 'Cause some people don't really like the RSA, do they? Some people there's a train of thought that the RSA bottoms horses.
I think it does.
Yeah. I don't know where they will go this year, but I do know that next year. Sorry, I do know that 2022, you're probably looking at the Gold Cup winner there.
Yeah.
Should he stay sound? Which, of course, there's no reason to think that he won't. But yeah, the interesting. Whilst we're talking about the RSA, obviously, Minil Indo won at Navan, but I don't think that either of the opponents were really at the races.
No.
Minil Indo is quite a tough 3-miler. I still can't watch this year's RSA. It hurts too much.
Yeah.
Champ.
I know.
Can jump, can he? I actually thought, oh my God, he's gonna, horse gonna end up on his arse, and he nearly did at one point, and then just to come through like that, it's just one of those things that could only happen at the festival, really. But yeah, I do. Very long-winded answer. I do think he's something special.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else for the weekend before we say goodbye?
Well, I think one thing we should do is give a shout out to Lace Cartoonist.
Yeah.
Who's done some fantastic idents of us three.
Yeah. I must say, John, when I discovered that fag in your mouth, it did take me about half an hour to stop laughing.
I've been called Rumpole of the Bailey.
Yeah.
And Popeye the diabetes years.
It's still better than Lisa Tarbuck, though, John.
Well, yes, that was a bit of a shocker, that one. I mean, I thought you looked really, really attractive, Catherine, to be
Really?
honest. Absolutely.
I wouldn't say it's my best look there, John, you know? I mean,
What I've actually done, I've had some splash-proof transfers made up to go in the shower. They're going either side of the rail that I hang my Emma Ramsden soap on a rope on.
oh my God.
And as for Albert Speer there as well, absolutely fantastic.
I thought Lee came out the best, actually.
Well, when Lee organises
Definite
something, you
bias.
can say Lee will come out the best.
Well, was it a certain Chris Stockill that said, "I don't like Graham Cunningham"?
Yeah, no, when he said that, I thought, bloody hell, he does.
Oh no.
Well, I don't know if there's any Coronation Street fans listening, but I thought you looked like Richard Hillman that drove the car with Gail and the kids in.
Yeah. Well,
Graham Cunningham or a serial killer?
Yeah.
Normally all in the eyes, isn't it?
That could have gone either way with Graham Cunningham, to be honest, couldn't it? That time he offered the bloke out at Chester.
Yeah.
On the Betfair Forum over an ice cream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody said something on Betfair to him about eating an ice cream on air.
Yeah.
And he said, well, come to Chester at the weekend, I'll see you in the car park.
Really? How do I not know about this? He was a good analyst, though. I do sort of like, in the early days of racing UK as it was then, I thought he was, I did think he was a decent pundit. So.
I like Graham. And that only enhanced his reputation as far as I was concerned.
John loves a good scrap. Yeah, to be honest, talking of fights on racecourses, the worst fights I've ever seen at racecourses have been at Royal Ascot. I've seen some absolute horrendous brawls, and I'm talking like in the car parks. There was last time I was over at Royal Ascot, 2013. There was the most horrendous brawl in the car park adjacent to the Owners and Trainers car park, and this poor AA man stepped in to try and break it up, for them only to all turn on him. It was absolutely horrendous, and it took the police a long time to get there, but when they did, they had a field day. Failing that, second best fight I've seen at a race course.
Too much testosterone and marching powder.
I saw a fight, really weird fight at the Curragh in the car park. And I was like, look at that, you don't normally see that on Irish race courses, to my friends that they were with, and they told me that they were knackers. So there you go. But yeah, that's my brief resume of fights on race courses. Maybe I should write a book.
I once saw a bloke from Scarborough, about 70-year-old, get hold of Jack Berry by the red shirt, and he was going to stick one on him. Jack Berry was walking towards these two fellas, and the other fella must have known Jack Berry. And he said, do you fancy anything today, Jack? And Jack said, oh no, Mug's game, that. And this other old lad gets hold of him, and he said, it's Mug's like me keeping this game going. And I was sure he was going to hit him. Anyway, he didn't.
Were you there hoping that you're going to see a bit of action?
Camera phone at the ready.
And there we go. Thank you once again for listening to the Bar Stewards Inquiry. If you do get a chance to view our lovely new profile picture, please do have a look. Thank you and good night.
Why did you move my wheelchair?